For most of us, sparkling wine is associated with the good life. We reserve it for special celebrations, and it often commands a premium price. But believe it or not, bubbles weren't always held in such high regard. In fact, early winemakers considered those bubbles to be a mistake, and before the days of science, they had no idea what caused them or how to stop them. In ancient France, monks were often in charge of making the wine. They wrote accounts of exploding bottles and popping corks in their cellars and called it le vin du diable, wine possessed by the devil himself. It would take several hundred more years for them to actually understand the process and how to harness it. The monks of Saint Hilaire in Limoux were the first to embrace the bubbles in the 1500s. They decided to keep the sparkle and make it a feature, not a fault. And people like Dom Pérignon and the Grande Dame Veuve Clicquot built upon the monks' work and perfected the clean, crisp, and vibrant luxury wine that we know and love today. So, in honor of these pioneers, let's go to France and taste two moments in sparkling wine history. One from the region where it was first embraced, and then to the place where it became an art form. Limoux in the south of France is the origin of French sparkling wine, starting with monks at the Abbey Saint Hilaire in the 1530s. And that was at least 100 years before sparkling champagne was even a thing. So even though this is the original, it can't be called champagne. For all other sparkling wines, the French use the term Crémant. The name means creamy, kind of like the texture of the wine. This one is made with a blend of Chardonnay, Chenin Blanc, and Pinot Noir. And it gets its soft, creamy texture from the traditional approach of fermenting the wine right in the bottle, just like the monks did 500 years ago. So Champagne and Crémant are produced to the same exact quality standards, but Crémant is often a better value because it's lesser known. This is a much more light and airy sparkler with subtle flavors of brioche and citrus, and 15 months of yeast aging give it this pretty buttercream flavor. It's the kind of sparkler you would want for breakfast, brunch, or light apps. English scones with some clotted cream and lemon curd would be perfect here. 300 years ago, before sparkling champagne existed, the Prié family started making wines in the hilly Côte de Bar region to the south of Rome. At the time, these wines were simply referred to as mountain wines, and they were still, meaning they had no bubbles, and typically rose-colored thanks to the Pinot Noir grape. Prié is what is known as grower champagne, meaning they're one of only about 10% of the 15,000 grape growers in Champagne who make wine from their own fruit. That means small production and unique offerings that you can't get from the big producers. Pinot Noir is still the top grape here, which makes for sparkling wines that are more intense, aromatic, and perfumed. You can actually see the copper color coming from that Pinot Noir grape. Now this champagne is made from a blend of reserve wines from 5 different vintages, so you get a very complex flavor profile. It's also aged on the yeast for 5 years, which gives it a weighty, almost saline texture. Imagine spreading some butter and apple jam on a toasted biscuit and finishing it off with a sprinkle of sea salt. It's superb. Well, that's the quick sip on these two classic French sparklers, but if you want more information and if you want to taste with us in real time, be sure to get this set at WTSO.com and reserve a spot for our virtual tasting coming up in a few weeks. But wait, because there's more. I've got 2 very easy and delicious recipes that pair up perfectly with these wines, so if you plan on joining us for the live tasting, you're going to want to grab those so you can have something to nibble on as we taste. Be sure to pop on over to the next video and get those. I'll see you there. Cheers.